Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I've got another great panel for you. I'm so excited. I'm also excited because I'm at that point in my own book journey for my fourth book where I'm focused on getting more people onto my launch team. Because here's the thing, the book is called Don't Just Hit Publish, Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue. And it would be ironic and also a little embarrassing if it didn't get a lot of reviews. So if you wouldn't mind, check out the information in the post about how you can join the launch team, or just write the word launch and I'll get you all the details. I would love your support. And you can apply these same skills to launching a podcast or a TEDx or a program. It's all relevant to you, whether you have a book imminently ready to launch or not. It's something you can learn about how to leverage any kind of business asset to help grow your business. Without any further delay, let me introduce this panel. Ever feel like your book will never be finished? I get it. I believe every author hits that point when they doubt, question, and even want to give up. But pushing through those moments is what separates a dream from reality. Once your book is done, a whole new journey begins, publishing and sharing your message with the world. And this journey doesn't have to be one you take alone. The right strategies, partnerships, and community support can make all the difference in turning your book into a tool that amplifies your business impact. I work with authors to ensure their books reach the readers who need them most and drive meaningful engagement. My strategic book launch program focuses on building connections that matter, conversations, media opportunities, and business growth. If you're ready to take your book to the next level, schedule a complimentary book launch or relaunch brainstorming session at booklaunchbrainstorm.com. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists who will share what it's been really like to be a business author. With me today, I have Marva Baller, the author of Be Unexpected, Resetting Routines to Revolutionize the Future of Work, a fresh, high-energy guide to building authentic connections and mastering soft skills in the modern workplace, offering creative, real-world strategies that turn everyday interactions into powerful opportunities for influence and impact. Sandra Long wrote multiple books about LinkedIn, including Jumpstart Your LinkedIn Profile, 67 Actionable Tips, and LinkedIn for Personal Branding, the Ultimate Guide. She's a LinkedIn top voice specializing in LinkedIn education and thought leadership. Stacey Larsen is the author of Reframing the Leadership Dance, The Secret to Finding Your Rhythm as a People Leader, which explores innovative leadership approaches. The book emphasizes the importance of adaptability and self-discovery in fostering effective leadership practices and navigating complex organizational landscapes. Please join me in welcoming Marva, Sandra, and Stacey. And Marva, I'm going to kick this off to you in a moment. I would love to hear from you more about who your audience was for your book. Like, who did you have in mind? And welcome, Marva.
My audience is you on this call, because when we do our introductions, no matter how well we've been trained or what the marketing team has said, it's that 30 seconds that connects with the audience. And my book has 6 chapters on how to introduce yourself, including your walk-up song.
I love the idea of a walk-up song. That's awesome. Sandra, let's come over to you. Who did you have in mind when you were writing your book?
My book is for any professional who is interested in success, whether it's career, growing your business, looking to be more visible. And usually the people that gravitate toward me in my books, they're already successful, but they need to translate that over to LinkedIn.
Yeah, you are one of the people at the top of my list when we think about LinkedIn strategy. So love that we get to have your voice in this call. And Stacey, who did you have in mind for your show, for your book?
Reframing the Leadership Dance, my book, is for middle and senior level leaders who are doing great, but for some reason they have people challenges. Maybe the business has grown, maybe they've merged businesses and they're struggling with delegation or communication, or maybe they're stuck in firefighting mode and they just really want to get out.
Yeah, that experience. I actually once dressed up as a firefighter and went to work in like a legit fireman's outfit, and I had a name tag hanging off my shirt, off my jacket. It said special events manager, because I just felt my job was like constantly putting out fires. Like everything was an emergency. Why can't we get ahead of this? Like it was so frustrating, but it was also really funny. People who did not know, I mean, obviously it was on Halloween, but like from afar, someone was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? What's happening?" Like they thought it was an emergency going on.
There's a lot of leaders right now who can identify with that, Robbie. A lot of them.
So I know, Sandra, that you've written multiple books. You've co-authored books. You've written your own books. You've got long books, short books, and all of that. So I'm going to come to you in a second. But first, I'm going to go over to Marva. Marva, I want to hear a little bit about how you got past that inner voice to writing your first book. So I know you've been in a lot of books, sort of in chapters of books. But when you decided, you know what, I have something to say, this is going to be my book. Was there a difference for you between contributing to other people's books and writing your own?
There was. So I wrote my book during a time when I was traveling all the time, and now I found myself at home because of the lockdown. So this was 4 years ago. And I attended a webinar about writing books, and it was 3 business leaders, C-level leaders that I respected. And one of them said, if you have 4 speeches, you can write a book. And I was a professional speaker actually in my company. I worked for a public company, and then I also did speaking. And I had tons of speeches. So I was like, oh, I didn't know I could write a book. And then I literally just started typing, and that's how I got started.
Were there any angsty moments like, who am I to write a book? Or did you just know right away, look, I have the right information, like, let's just go?
I was just go.
That's awesome. So Stacey, let's come over to you. I want to hear a little bit about what you had in mind when you started your author journey and made this decision. Were there any voices in your head either encouraging you or holding you back?
You know, I really wanted to get my voice out into the world, Robbie, more than anything else. And I really do a lot with video, and I do a lot to connect my voice with my audience. The challenge was, how do I do that in paper? How do I do that in a book and get the voice to come across? And I think the wrestling with my publisher around, how do you make the voice come out and allow it to be me and authentically me without scaring anyone off who doesn't know me already? How do I welcome those people who really are just getting to know me?
I think you nailed it, because I know a lot of people said, even in their reviews of your book, they can hear your voice. They read the book and they can hear you, and it's memorable content because of that. Your voice stays with them. So I think you nailed that. And it's a good concern to have, because we, particularly in a world of AI, we really have to be unique. We have to be ourselves. We have to not sound. I actually discovered that I wrote my book recently, and I just handed it off to the editor while we're getting this recorded. And Grammarly has this option where you can say, like, check for AI patterns, text patterns, and also check to see if there's anything that like looks like it could have been plagiarized. Well, I wrote about you, Stacey, in my book, and your title was plagiarized because obviously your title showed up somewhere else. But then even certain patterns of my own writing, because it's writing for a marketing purpose. Like I have been trained for the last 10 plus years to write with a certain rhythm, which is the AI rhythm. So I was like, why? I would ask ChatGPT, why does this sound like AI? And it would explain it to me, and then it would explain how to make it more human. So I was like, thank you so much, AI. I appreciate you. Marva, let's come back over to you. There we go.
It's interesting you mentioned that, I guess we'll say correction program. So when I wrote my book, it was before the big AI revolution, and I am in the tech industry. And actually, I was not allowed to use that specific program for editing because at the time, their user agreement actually said they take your content. So it's something to be aware of when you're an author and you are using all these great productivity tools that are available. You really need to read the terms and conditions of all their programs.
I appreciate that. I also recognize that as soon as it's published, it's probably being scraped, even though that may be also not what we want to have happen. So I know that I want the content to be out in the world and brought back to me in some way. I want to bring Sandra into this conversation. Go ahead and unmute so you can jump in. And I think, Marva, it's just you that needs to worry about the muting part for now. So Sandra, your first book, which one was that?
LinkedIn for Personal Branding, the ultimate guide.
when I first met you, that was when you were walking around with. We met at a conference. We were both very proud new book authors. What was it like? I mean, like, you've since done a lot in the author space, but again, like, is there a difference between how you approach that book and other books since then?
Well, that book, I was very motivated because I wanted at that time to get my book out about the concept of LinkedIn and personal branding, kind of merging that concept, which in 2016, that was kind of new for a lot of people. And of course, I've updated it and republished since that time, but I was feeling like I was in a race to get that information out. And that book is pretty substantial. It's, I think, 280 pages, whereas my most recent book was 100 pages. So it was a different approach. It was more of a tip book, trying to be more laser focused for the reader that just wants a quick list of tips. No, they're comprehensive, but it was a different approach, maybe even for oftentimes for a different audience, although there's some overlap, but was both of them were great to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also know you co-authored, and that was a great opportunity for you and Bill Soroka to
Yes.
have LinkedIn with a very specific niche. He's been on here a bunch as an author, and he's got his community of notaries that he's working with. So I think it was really clever. I feel like reminds me a little bit about Miracle Morning. If anyone knows Hal Elrod, he self-published a book called The Miracle Morning, which is this like 5-step process you do every morning. It includes things like reading and meditation and exercise and all these different things. And self-published because he couldn't find a publisher, took off wildly. And now he has authored or co-authored books for like all these other subtopics, like Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, Miracle Morning for Real Estate, right? So I feel like your LinkedIn angle is like useful, but you can personalize it. I love the idea that, for even LinkedIn for personal branding is a version of that. Like, you're not just generic LinkedIn, and your tips are so, I mean, it's in the title, very, very actionable tips.
Well, thank you. And Bill was a great co-author. He and I just totally are in sync. And so it was really fun working on that book and working with his community.
Stacey, when you got started, because I didn't actually talk to you at the beginning of this process, you and I really connected when the book was almost done and getting ready to print. What were your earliest metrics that you were going to pay attention to know the book was successful, and how did that evolve as you became an author and started to see what actually mattered for your business? So what did you think initially when you first dreamt of this?
When I first dreamt of this and started talking to the book coach that I was working with, it was all about getting the word out about me to people that I hadn't met before and helping them understand me faster, helping them want to come on board and be my client. So my success metric in my mind was, I'm going to increase business, right? But when I met you, I realized, guess what I didn't do? I didn't align my services really tightly to the book. And so here I am ready to launch a book, really close to launching a book. I think it was maybe a month out. And your question to me was, so what do you want them to buy? And all I kept thinking was, me. And it wasn't until that moment that I thought, I've been so focused in on how to talk to these people, but I haven't really figured out early enough what I'm talking to them about, how to start working with me. I was talking more about how I thought about the work that I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because you did get some great advice that helped you write a book that does, again, brings your voice forward, shares some new ideas, helped you create a framework for what you were already teaching your clients, but named it. I think all of that was really helpful, but there's like the last mile. Like, if you ever think of the logistics of getting a package, they always talk about that last mile is like the hardest thing to figure out. Like, you can put a lot of information all in one place and ship it, and then when it gets to that destination, it still needs to do the last mile. And the last mile is what connects your reader to your business. and that sort of dotted line was just a little too faint. But you've renamed some of the things in your programs. You've made the offer clear. You put some content in the book. I think all of that was really interesting. And what's the results so far? Like what milestones are you tracking these days?
Well, two biggies. The biggest ones would be my leadership lab, which was a baby when my book was being published. Had been run in beta version only. My leadership lab for empowering your people has run 5 times now. And back then it was just the beta version. So I have added 4 cohorts of people to go through in the last 6 months.
Okay. Wow. That's a metric. So
and the other
people are buying
metric
things
would
from you.
be, in working with you, I actually made financial goals. What a concept. I made financial goals for 2025, and I'm already confirmed to be on track for 150% increase in my revenue.
For over last year?
Mhm.
Amazing. And we're recording this in early April. So
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. I'm so excited. So Stacey and I did a combination of one-on-one coaching around business revenue strategies as well as the book launch. So we really were able to work together to tie those two pieces together. Sometimes that is what's missing. Marva, I'd love to hear what your thoughts have been around, how do you move like the reader from the book to the business? Like, what were your initial goals around that? Like, or was it more about selling certain copies of books or hitting #1 bestseller? Like, what was the original plan?
So I worked for a large company, and I'm in several authors groups that you're in as well. And the people that actually work for these big corporations, I really encourage you. Sometimes it's really challenging because that's your full-time job and this is more of a hobby. But if you can find a way to meld those two areas together where it brings value to your brand, but it also is bringing credibility to your business and your company's brand and values, that's where the magic happens. And they actually called my kind of platform Marva Magic. And that's what was so cool, because once I had my book, I was able to go to literally Fortune 500 companies and speak at their all hands meetings. And the sales teams loved it because they got those more personal interactions. And that's a really great strategy to have. So that's like what I did. As far as metrics, yes, that's all I cared about, is being #1 in the bestseller, because I didn't really know any of the other metrics. And then I was really happy. There's a lot of book awards that that you're able to get, and I did win a independent career book of the year. And to me, that made me really proud, because I do want to build people's careers. But it's what you don't know. Like all these metrics to the general public, all you know is the bestseller list. Honestly, that's the only thing we know.
Yeah, I actually, let's quickly address some of that, because you just named a few things that I think a lot of early authors or writers are pretty focused in on. First is the #1 bestseller on Amazon. It should happen as a byproduct of a successfully run, strategically, thoughtfully run launch, where people are buying your book and leaving reviews. And the people buying your book and leaving reviews are the same people who hopefully are going to want to buy from you or refer you. That would be a really strategic way to do it. But it's not really that hard to do, and it's also not as meaningful as I think a lot of authors think it will be. It really depends, I guess, a little bit on your market, how much importance it might have. But much more important would be having the conversations with your prospects and referral partners, so you do line up that pipeline of business. And then the awards thing, I love the idea that you brought that up. Definitely, I feel like I want credit for getting out of my own way and actually submitting my 3rd book for the award. That's the honor that I want to get, is the fact that I did it, because I think my first 2 books deserve an award. I just didn't. I ran out of steam. I just couldn't do all the things. I just met someone, though, who submitted her book to 15 places, won 9 awards and 5 honorable mentions. And I will tell you, you don't need more than 1. If you have 2 or 3 for the same book, okay, fine. But 1 is all you need to put the word award-winning next to your name. So it's a very good thing. And I think do the research, because I feel like what Marva said, it makes sense. You are proud to have that affiliation, with the place that gave you the award. You wanted that distinction. And similarly, when I chose the place I got my award from, I wanted that too. So Sandra, Marva, let's come back to you.
You need to pay attention, if unless you have a coach like yourself, you might miss the mark, because depending on when you release your book, it has to be in a certain time frame, in a certain genre. So it can't just be when you're around to.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of why I missed it for the first 2 books, because I ran out of steam. By the time I thought of it, it was like a year and a half later, you know? Whereas for that last book, I built it into the publication and launch process. Sandra, you have hit number 1. You have sold lots of books. You know, how has your definition of success changed? Like, it's, you know, clearly it's evolved, I imagine. Like, is it about the bulk orders of books? Is it about the number of people reaching out to you? Is it your LinkedIn contacts growing? Like, I don't know, what are you paying attention to?
Well, I guess there's 2 sides of the coin. There's what the Amazon side, which is, you know, reviews and bestseller and all that kind of status, and getting royalties from Amazon. That's sort of for the mass market group. But I pay a lot more attention to my corporate sales. My clients will hire me for LinkedIn workshops for their employees, or for their students, and they'll buy orders in bulk. And so I do really, really well with that. And this year, I'm already way ahead of where I was last year. So I definitely pay attention to bulk sales. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to actually switch gears and talk about reviews, which for me is kind of a happy place, because I think reviews are just so important to this process. But I know for a lot of people, it is not their happy place, because it's an afterthought and it's kind of frustrating. And it's hard. I will just freely say, even aiming to get 20 reviews cannot be done accidentally. There's no, like, you know, just publishing and suddenly your book has 20 written reviews. It doesn't happen that way. Most people who follow the, like, just hit publish and hope for the best, I mean, maybe they'll get 7 ratings and 3 or 4 reviews. Like, and by the way, probably one of those reviews has the same last name as them. I've seen this over and over again. So to truly be successful, the minimum threshold in my mind is those 20 written reviews. But then it's a question of where they came from. Because I also talk to authors who already have a book, who are thinking about a relaunch, or how do they leverage the book and all that stuff. And I met with a woman, she had 32 written reviews. And I was surprised that she was meeting with me. I was like, you have all these reviews? And she said, well, the book's not really translating to business, and I don't know what the pipeline is. And I'm thinking she's got all these amazing people to reach out to, right? Like prospects, referral partners, people who showed up for her. So I said, well, how'd you get all these reviews? Like, over 30, like, that's a big deal. And she said, oh, my friends and family really came through for me. And I was like, face plant, you know, like, oh, you know, that doesn't make actually as much sense, because those people aren't going to be helping her. They're not going to refer her. They don't even understand really maybe the full value of what she does. They don't need her help. So if you're going to go through all the effort of getting reviews, let's make sure it's from the right people. And I want to go over to Stacey, because this was not, I think, Stacey's front and center when you first were talking about publishing, but you nailed it. So, so Stacey, you went from, I'm going to, like, write this book and help people and, like, reach people, and, like, oh, maybe I should talk to my own people. So how did your thinking evolve? How did the reviews become such a central piece of your launch? And I want to, before you speak, share with everyone that you have 68 total ratings, and 67 of those have a written review. Notable for a couple of reasons. One, over 50. Well over 50. That's amazing. 2, the ratio between 68 and 67. I mean, that is pretty much 100% of the people are writing something, which means you ran a launch strategy focusing on getting those reviews. It's a lot easier to get the 5-star rating, and they don't have to buy it. They don't have to write anything, right? It's much easier to run like, everyone leave me a 5-star. But you clearly made an effort to do more than that. And I will also say that most of your reviews are verified purchase. I'm just going to pull that up. Like, more than half of your reviews are people who bought it, which is significant, because sometimes it could be as low as 10%. So tell us a little bit about how you thought about this review process.
In working with you, Robbie, one of the things that I really focused on a lot was the launch itself being with people I wanted to talk to about what I had written and to celebrate that work with. And the piece that I think I hadn't really thought about before we started planning my book launch was this might not be about new people being on my list. This is about my current network being on my list. And they are my best referral partners. They are the people who need the clarity and the words to be able to share with someone what it is Stacey does and what it is Stacey wrote about and why they liked the book. And so for me, the biggest aha was, oh, I get to just be me. I get to reach out to all these amazing people that I have known throughout my career, whether I taught them, whether I coached them, whether they're a colleague of mine, and say to them, hey, I care about you. I miss you. I want you to celebrate this with me. And it's not an ad, and it's not a begging, and it's not anything inauthentic. This is just me talking to them, and it felt very natural.
Being authentic is a big piece of your brand, authentic edge. So I could see how if your preconceived notion of this was that you had to perform in some inauthentic way in order to get eyeballs on your book, that's why you're like shying away from it. And I do think there are people who have that. They may not use that same terminology of authentic or not, but that feeling of like ickiness of having to like selling, pushing,
Coaches
begging.
don't like to sell.
Yeah. So instead, you had created this really useful, valuable asset for a purpose. You wanted to help people. Well, we have to now tell the people.
Yeah.
Sandra, let me come over to you. Again, you've got lots of books. This last one that we're talking about right now, the one with actionable tips, that one did really well. Again, for a small tip book, most people, I would say, in your shoes, who's already written a book and already done well with it launch, probably wouldn't have worked that hard. I want to give you credit for working hard to get this one launched, because there is sort of a way people are like, it's this thing I'm going to throw out there. It's like, no, launch it. Don't just hit publish. So you have 64 total ratings, and 58 of those have a written review on your tip book. But then when I look at your first book, which is again very substantial, that one has 254 ratings and 126 with reviews. So 126 people took the time to write a review for that book. So how have you approached the review process as you were thinking about who to reach out to? Who was the most responsive? Like, how did you nurture people to actually do it? Because honestly, it's not an easy task.
Well, in the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't thinking about it really at all. And so I think, and from people like you, I learned and followed you and learned a lot. So I have people that basically raise their hand whenever I say I'm doing some kind of project. They raise their hand. They're interested in my topic. They're interested in my work. And so those are the people that are naturally, they want to read the early copy. I want people that are enthused, love the topic. Some of them are clients, some of them are friends, some of them, but they're all like business related to me. They all have a meaningful interest in LinkedIn. They all want to improve their LinkedIn. So they want to get the ideas. So they want to jump into the book. And so that makes it much easier for me. So
Yeah. Find the people who we most impacted and ask for their support. When I was working on the launch team for my first book, Croissants versus Bagels, Strategic, Effective, and Inclusive Networking at Conferences, the title, Croissants versus Bagels, came from a talk that I was doing at conferences for like the 5 years prior. And I had these spreadsheets. I had people sign in on paper at the door at a conference. I just asked for a 6-foot table, and I would stand there with like 4 piles of sign-in sheets. And then after my presentation, I would sit and compile them onto a Google Sheet so I could send them a malmerged message asking for a testimonial. This is before I had an email list. This is when I didn't actually have a business. Well, I still had all those spreadsheets.
yeah.
And 5 years had passed, and I wrote a message that said, remember Croissants versus Bagels, it's a book. And the open rate was so high, and they were the first people to respond, sign up, and do a review. people that I didn't even know that well, but who had been talking about my IP for 5 years, probably forgot that I was even the one who told it to them.
Well,
And
that's how I met you. You did that talk
yes.
on Cape Cod, and I love that talk. And I remember we met each other, and then we did some other conferences together. So yeah, that was a great talk.
It was a great talk, but it just showed the power of the stickiness of a concept, but then also those people, they're not my besties. By the way, my besties, I don't think ever wrote me a review because they're not in
No,
business.
it's like creating these like professional fans or friendship, business, professional relationships, people that
Yes.
really care. So yeah, I can totally see that for you. Yeah.
Marva,
I have the opposite. I have the opposite. So I love LinkedIn. I'm so glad you paired me with Sandra and Stacey today. And I didn't really understand the reviews. So I did very, very well on my testimonials, very high quality people, very diverse group of people globally, industry. I really spent a lot of time on that. And then I killed it on LinkedIn, 16,000, whatever. I had, I don't know, 800 comments. I mean, just off the charts. But those comments would have been amazing reviews, but I never asked.
Yeah, and I actually saw with the help of our fellow authors here, you've been in the Kindle Cross Promotion a few times, Marva, and one of the things we do suggest, so that's how we all kind of know each other, we're here together, is because 3 times a year I organize these Kindle Cross Promotion campaigns where authors who wrote a book to help them grow their business lower their Kindle book price to 99 cents, and then we cross promote. And as part of that, I say, hey, it's optional if you'd like, commit to writing 5 reviews. Basically find 5 books that you want to buy and read anyway, and just tell those authors, hey, I'm going to write a review. And it's not an exchange. There's no direct, transaction around it, but authors also know how hard it is to get reviews. They may not be your pipeline, they may or may not be your referral partners and all that, but we get it. And I saw 7 names in the last 4 months who signed up for you. And the reason this is important is that recency of reviews is one of the factors, the criteria for whether your book shows up on the search results page on Amazon. So quantity of reviews, the quality, as well, the like positivity, but also the quality of the review, how much, meaningful response did you get as opposed to nice book. Great, nice book. And then the other piece is the recency, and then verified reviews are sort of a weighted piece of this. So if you want your topic, maybe it's a really competitive topic, if you want your book to rise above others and show up, this is where those reviews really count. And so even just steadily getting reviews every few months, 1 or 2 reviews could be helpful. So that's something I know, Marva, you're going to keep probably getting a trickle of new reviews. And as we enter each new one, you now have a reason to go back to all those great responses you got. And you can say, hey, can you copy and paste this message you gave me and put it in this other format? I'm sure people would love to help you. It's like a simple ask. But yes, it'll all collect them and get one more place. And lovely that you got them on LinkedIn. And also there's Goodreads, and there's a lot of places that we can post these reviews. But I love that Amazon still, for good or worse, is the place people kind of check these things. I'd love to know what was the challenge beyond reviews. Stacey, I'm going to come to you with this question. So other than reviews, what was the challenge that you had to overcome? Was there somebody you felt you had to pair yourself with, or a resource you needed to kind of move forward? Was it, what was sort of difficult about, the whole author journey?
I think I really needed to be able to connect the new framework that I was creating and the new way I was thinking about my business to how I talked about my service offerings. I think my offerings are different enough from other coaches in the field where I'm doing learning labs rather than a traditional class. I'm doing short bites with people, not necessarily all long form coaching. Well, what does that look like? How do people understand that? How do people know that? And how do they go from a broad overview book of the entire framework of how to simplify leadership and think about it differently to, well, now what? Well, how do I work with you? And I think that was the biggest challenge for me.
You're naming something that I think a lot of authors getting started don't even know will be a challenge. Like, they're not, like you said earlier, just getting the book written is a challenge on its own. Um, Figuring out how it ties into the business, it's helpful if you can have some sense of that as you're going. Obviously, the more strategic, the better this will be. But yes, even taking a book that's existing, how do we map it to the either existing products and services or piloting new content? I was just working with someone who she had an idea of doing an online course, created this really great book about branding for people who hate branding. Sorry, not branding, marketing for people who hate marketing. And then it was clear as we were talking about her call to action for during her launch party that people will need support implementing the book, even before they hire her for something. This is an actionable book. So she ended up doing a call to action at her event was, hey, who wants to go through this with me? And then 30 people raised their hands. And so then she was able to pull together a small group of people from that 30 to intentionally get sort of author-led discussions, which primes them for the higher paid offer that's coming, because there's just sort of a missing piece she didn't know people would need until like the book existed. So I think having the book is important because we can't see around the corner until the book exists. Like the book is sort of a driving what comes next. Speaking of what comes next, I'd love to know if anyone here has a great story about a really effective marketing strategy. I know Marva and Sandra are both talking a lot about LinkedIn, but what's led to either book sales or your book just getting out into the world, into more people's hands, whether or not you're paid for it? So Sandra, do you have something that was successful at getting volumes of books out?
Well, a couple of things. Obviously, LinkedIn is my number one. So not only it's lining up your profile, but in fact, I posted about it today, different launch tips for when you launch your book using LinkedIn. I did it in honor of today's talk. And, but the other thing in terms of corporate sales is I organized special packages for my clients to make it really easy. So they can order it in combination with a talk or training or workshop, but I also created packages if they just ordered, a large quantity of books. And so I had that always ready on the go. So that made it, rather than just kind of waiting, and it really has helped me a lot with sales.
That's great. That's awesome. Marva, did you want to add anything? Marva, did you want to add anything about marketing? No? All right. She's not. Okay. Stacey, what about you? Do you have anything that was useful?
I think the thing that I underestimated is back to this idea of referral, but not necessarily to another organization, but within an organization. I think what happens in the world of coaching, for me in particular, or in leadership development, someone will come and buy the book for themselves. They want to grow. And a lot of times when they take it back to the organization, they're seen as bringing their newest fad in. And that's kind of frowned upon. But I've underestimated what could happen when you have that champion that you have worked with, and how that person doesn't have to plug your book and make everybody read it. But when they start inviting people to do some of the services like the leadership lab, or to check out this part of the book or this thing that they're doing, telling them where it came from and letting them be naturally curious. I have gotten so many clients in the last 6 months from that very thing. It blows my mind. And we get to do better change management that way within an organization, from coming at the issues from multiple levels, multiple departments, multiple perspectives. And it's fabulous all around.
I love the idea of taking time to figure out how to best equip a champion within an organization to serve your book and your offers and your value. And a lot of that is having them actually implement some of the pieces that they can implement on their own, and then having people want to know, like, wait, something's different. oh, well, I've been working with this person, or I read this book, and that not talking about it, but doing it, and then letting people know the source of that new knowledge, so that they, like you said, start to have that curiosity. I mean, it does start to sell itself. If people see results, then they're less resistance to new, because they do want the results. Like that's, of course, they want the results. They probably think nothing will work. That's too much time,
Mhm.
effort. I don't like change. But if it's working though, like now I'm like, well, how do I do this? I want to have those results. I love that. And I don't think I've had anyone on here talk about how we best kind of arm or equip the champion within to do our work for us, and bringing us in. Sandra, what do you like to add?
Well, I just love what Stacey said. And I wonder, one of the things that's always been in the back of my mind, which I've never done, I wonder if anyone's done it, is setting up book clubs within a corporation, because I think that might be an interesting thing. And I've wanted to do it. I just haven't done it. Has Marva done it?
Yeah. So when Stacey brought up her example, what's so interesting, because you said marketing, and what she's talking about is really organic. And then you're providing them with social capital where they're smart, and then they could have just made it their idea, but it actually made them even more intelligent by citing a source from a PhD that is an expert, and then even more so, then they're gifting a book where they sign it or whatever, and then it's amazing. So that's a different question, maybe. So that's like organic. That's like your fan base, and sort of like LinkedIn-ish, right?
I mean, word of mouth is still the best form of marketing. So it's a question of how do we activate people to take action on our behalf, be motivated to spread the word. I mean, right now I'm in the middle of trying to build a launch team for a book about reviews. And so the more it's like, it's been this meta-ness kind of issue where I'm like, how do I find the people who are most energized to help me get more people energy, So uh it's kind of almost goes back in a lot of ways, Marva, to my days of being a community organizer and also teaching community organizing at a university level. It's like, who do you think about? How do you bring people and groups together? Before I go down that path of history, though, I want to ask for success stories. And the way I'm going to frame the question is because I am an author. So think about like what doors open for you. Sandra, let me come to you first. Because I'm an author, what was possible? Like, how would you finish that sentence?
Well, I've been invited to be on many podcasts, many interviews. I've gotten clients that have hired me for very substantial projects because of my book. I have one client right now who actually was never on LinkedIn, never used any social media, and he read my book, and he's hired me to totally build up his company and his personal brand, as well as do content all year. So it was a very extensive engagement, because he started to believe in what was possible with LinkedIn because of the book, which really was a big thing for me. So I was really happy about that.
That's like,
Yeah.
I hope that is a testimonial somewhere, because that's actually a whole case study, because that world changing view, like you got him to believe something different, and then you helped him actually take the action that led him to get the results that he didn't even know were possible. Like all
Well, I
that
was
is
thrilled because he's not an online person, and he's now convinced. And so now we're working through it all, but we're hired for the year. So it's a good way to start.
wow, that's awesome. Marva, do you have anything you'd like to add because I'm an author?
Because I'm an author, I'm now part of a ancient guild of thought leaders and big thinkers, and we all thrive off of each other's energy.
It is true that it's a nice little community as you get to be part of this world of authors. Everyone's so generous. They want to help each other. So one of the things I always recommend is, if you're newer to this space, if you're thinking about writing a book, or you're a newer author, find ways to hang out with other authors who are in the similar type of space as you. So, if you're writing a book to help you grow your business, hang out with entrepreneurs who are writing books. One way to do that is if you go to bizbookpubhub.com. I host an event every single month that's free. It's a free virtual networking event. 1 month is focused on writers and authors. The following month is for speakers. many of whom are or want to be writers and authors. So you can come hang out with us. That's one way to get to know us and to kind of learn some of the tips and tricks that you're hearing today, but in a one-to-one conversation. Stacey, same question. Because I'm an author, what's the biggest thing that's come of this?
I get to do deeper and wider work. My clients go deeper because while we're having coaching sessions every couple of weeks, they're also reading the book and getting it in another learning modality. And they're also invited. This is similar to what Sandra was talking about. I don't do book clubs, but I do alumni calls every month. So anybody who comes to the alumni call is now across organizations who have the same language. They're amongst people that they don't feel alone as a leader anymore. And we can use the common language of my book and the passion that they bring to the calls to extend the work together.
Oh, that's brilliant. Hey, Stacey, how can people find you and follow your work?
I am at AuthenticEdge.com. And it's Stacey Larsen with an EY and an ENEDD on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. We're going to put all these links, by the way, at bizbookpubhub.com in the show notes. Marva, how can people find you and follow your work? Go ahead and unmute. There you go.
MarvaBaylor.com, but really LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, also since we have Sandra on here, write me a note. Tell me that you saw us on this great program, and actually maybe read the book. It's actually on Audible books. We even have a sale coming up. So if you can read it and say your insight, I'd love to start a conversation with you.
That's brilliant. And Sandra, how can people find you and follow your work? Wait, let me guess. LinkedIn and
yeah, LinkedIn is, and so it's just Sandra Long. If you have trouble finding me, I'm in the Boston area, but look forward to, send me a note as well. I'd love to get your notes and hear how what you're thinking about LinkedIn or anything at all. I'd love to hear your notes that you were participating today.
Fantastic. All those links are going to be in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com, where you'll find all the episodes we release every Tuesday and Thursday. Incredible content, expert interviews, author interviews, and these author panels, chock full of information that would be really valuable to every writer and author on their entrepreneurial journey. And also, you'll be invited to those free virtual networking events and get information about the Kindle cross promotion campaign that I mentioned earlier. Lots more there as well. Head over to bizbookpubhub.com. Panel, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really amazing.
Thank you.